Hi, this is Paul from Outerloop Coaching and OuterloopCoaching.com. I'm with you in this video to talk about how to be a manager for music artists. We get lots of really great independent artists whose career doesn't quite go the way they want to do, but they learn a lot about the industry, learn a lot about the business, develop a lot of really great relationships, and they like to leverage their advice for other artists. They become managers. And so I want to talk about if that's a position that you're in, or even if you're just a fan who wants to become a manager, much like I was many years ago before I became a manager. These are the things that you need to know about what a manager does. A lot of this stuff I didn't know when I got started. I just wanted to hang out with great musicians and thought this would be a great way to do it. And it turned out I was right. But there was so much I didn't know about what I needed to do for my clients. So let's go through them. I've got 4 really main things that managers need to do. And then I've got one thing that I want to talk about, the difference between managing established artists and managing developing artists. And I want to talk about that because it's an important point that you may need to make a decision about sooner rather than later. Another thing I want to mention, I've got in a link right over my head a book by Mike Mowry. I helped him with it. It is on music management, and one of the things that Mike talks about in this book, and it's free. Just go to the link and you'll be able to get it and download it for free. It's great reading. One of the things that Mike talks about is that a manager is so much more easier to define by not what they do, but what they don't do. They're not a booking agent. They're not a lawyer. They're not a marketing manager. They're not a merchandising manager. There's a lot of things that they are not. But one of the things that the manager is the person who puts the team of people together for the artist. So get the book. Mike's advice is absolutely crucial, but here's some other points I wanted to bring up. Number 1 is that the manager has to give the artist really great advice. Now, the reason that it's advice and you're not the decision maker is that ultimately the artist's career is up to the artist. So you have to be good at convincing an artist into making sure they make good decisions rather than bad, but ultimately the artist makes those decisions as long as they haven't contractually obligated on one decision over another already. This is a point where the artist makes a decision, but the manager has to give really great advice. Now, the way that you make sure that you give really good advice is you learn everything you can about the music industry, about the history of the music industry, about things that mistakes that other artists have made. And when your artist runs into a similar situation, you'll be able to convince them not to make the same mistakes. That is absolutely key. The number 2 biggest thing that a manager has to do is they have to develop the strategy for the artist. The artist needs to stay focused on creating great art and on doing all the things that they need to do to make sure that the audiences are aware of their existence and aware of how great they are at what they are doing. But the strategy, the strategic thinking about how the artist gets from where they are to where they want to be in their career, medium term and long term, that is up to the manager. And so therefore, as a manager, you need to be very, very strategic thinking, making sure that all the decisions that the artist is making along the way, all the opportunities that you as a manager are seeking out are part of that strategy. Find the strategy, commit to it, and really follow through on it. Number 3, develop and maintain relationships. If you are a really social person, this is going to come easier for you. If you are not, like I am not, then this is a real challenge. You need to develop relationships with people in the music industry so that when you pick up the phone to try to develop opportunities for your artists, they will pick up. I have an entire course dedicated to how to make connections in the music industry. It's absolutely critical. vital and absolutely crucial. And I put it together with Mike Mowry, who knows absolutely everybody, and he knows everybody for a reason. We've got the course right over here over my head. Just click on the link. It's called Connected. Let's see. So developing and maintaining those relationships. Understand that on the totem pole of people that music people that people in the industry want to pick up the phone and answer to, booking agents are like near the top because that's money. Merchandising people, artists is somewhere in there because at least they're cool. The manager is like at the bottom of the totem pole. Like, people know when a manager calls that they're probably not offering anything. They want something. And when they want something, but it's going to actually benefit the person who picks up the phone, that's when it is key. That's when it really works. So having a relationship with people in the industry so that when you pick up the phone and ask them how their kids are and all that stuff, and you know people's names, that is going to make it so that they are willing to pick up that phone and have that conversation with you, be honest with you, rather than when they see your number and they go, no. Or they go, I don't even know who that is. No. That is where you as a manager have to be really great. You have to be able to develop the relationships. And this is not just with that team that you put together for your artists. This is everybody in the music industry. This is everybody in the entertainment industry. It's everybody anywhere that is going to provide a future opportunity for your clients. That could be from venues and promoters. That could be people working on video games and TV commercials. You just never know. So just being really good at developing relationships and asking for referrals and all that sort of stuff. And there's a real strategy to it. Again, check out our Connected program. That is one of the things that you have to be really good at as a manager. Number 4, you have to manage revenue opportunities. This is part of why you're making all those phone calls and developing all those relationships. You want to be able to find those people in the industry who are going to lead to revenue for your client. The reason this is so important is that you are most likely, unless you are a manager who is being paid a flat fee, you are most likely being paid a percentage on the revenue that the artist earns. And I got a blog post on this, and it tells you exactly as to when a manager does get paid. Again, over my head, check out the link. Managing those revenue opportunities. So what this is making sure that when merchandise gets sold on the road, you're making sure that you're able to get that money that is owed to your client into their bank account, get the money that's owed to you into your bank account, and the money that needs to be reinvested into more merchandise and all the other stuff. You're managing all of that, making sure that it goes in the right places and then it gets collected, making sure that the money gets collected from the promoters, from the booking agents, from the record label, making sure that when the publishing monies that do exist are out there to be collected, you are figuring out a way to go and get it and looking for opportunities to make more in the future, whether that be through working with different people or through being more effective with working with the people that you are, or whatever it may be. All right, so those are the 4 biggest things that I can think of as to what a manager can do for their artists and what they're responsible for. But again, a manager is much more easier to define by what they don't do than what they do. So check out the book. I've got the link. It's free down below. Developing artists versus established artists. So when you work with developing artists, a lot of people really love the idea of working with developing artists. And one of the reasons is that you're part of that strategic thinking right on the ground floor. It's easier to make those relationships with those artists. It's exciting in the early days. And when the fortunes come, there can be huge rewards if you are able to stick with that artist right through when the money comes. But understand, there is a long tradition, unfortunately, in the music industry of managers working with artists in the developing stages, and then just as the artist is about to reach that point where they start to make real money, and therefore the manager starts to make real money, the artist will split. If they don't have a contract, they will split and they'll go to somebody who they believe is going to do a better job at managing their career now that they're at that particular level, rather than the person who brought them all the way up. So you'll hear a lot of horror stories about managers who mistreat artists, and trust me, there are tons of them. You seek them out. It is horrible the way some artists have been treated by managers over the years. But one of the stories that you don't hear very often are the number of times that managers have worked with artists as they're developing through their career, and then just as the investment that the manager would have made throughout that career as it grows, just as that payoff is about to happen, the artist splits and the manager is left with almost nothing for all that hard work. So just recognize, if you're working with developing artists, I highly recommend, if you can, try to get a long-term contract so that your interests are protected, but still finding a way so that it's fair for you and for the artist. And this is a really, really tough dance to do, especially if you don't have a track record. However, working with established artists, again, you're not going to have quite as much fun with the whole developing a strategy, and it's a lot more difficult to develop the relationships with established artists than it is with developing artists. Usually, established artists are going to want to work with established managers. So how do you get to that position? The one way that I highly recommend is that you make your way into established music management companies by interning, by trying to get a small job, offering some small service for them, and get your foot in the door and start to build your way in, so that way when your chance to become a partner perhaps after a few years, or to be a day-to-day manager and then eventually graduate to an actual manager for an established artist, you can do it that way. The reason that that is so attractive for so many people is because the money is so much better, and it's really almost guaranteed when the established artist is making big, big, big money. When you're working with developed artists, there's not much money for the developing artists, nor is there much for their management. So established artists, there's a lot more money to go around. It's just a very, very different kind of experience, a very different kind of managing. One of the things that makes it not so much fun with the established artists is, again, not really putting together the strategy. You're just sort of following the steps and managing the stuff that is coming in all the time. The developing artists, there's the struggle, there's the trying to get people to say yes, and then with established artists, it's a lot more of just being really good at knowing when to say no. So there it is, How to Be a Manager for Music Artists. Again, check out the ebook by Mike Mowry down below. It's it's free for you to download, no problem. And yeah, check out our Connected program. Also, link down below. I also am going to put down below a course that I have on how to break into the music industry for non-musicians. You might find this really, really useful. Please, you've gotten this far, like the video, hit me up with comments down below, and make sure you subscribe. I'll see you next time.